Hey, welcome to my guitar studio. Good to have you back. Today we're looking at the dominant 7 chord, and when I say we're looking at a dominant 7th chord, that doesn't mean like just pictures of a dominant 7th chord. We're going to take inversions of that chord up and down the fretboard, so you have a complete view of that chord. Let's take a look at that chord from the 5th degree of a C major scale. Now, because that's where the chord is built, the best way to think of it is as the 5 chord in a major key. So if we're in the key of C major, we are going to build the chord from the G note, from the 5th degree of the scale, C, D, E, F, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we build the chord from there. And in order to build the chord, we take a note, skip a note, take a note, skip a note, take a note, skip a note, giving us G, B, D, and F. So, I mean, if I play a common voicing of that chord, there's G, B, D, and G, F, B, and D. A slightly different voicing. But what we want to do today is break these chords down into smaller, usable forms. And the topic is really triads. And because G7 chord is not a triad, it's not a 3-note chord, it's a 4-note chord, we have to eliminate one of the notes in that chord. And the best note to eliminate, the note that is most often eliminated, is the 5th degree. And the reason that's eliminated is it's so strongly present in the 1, in the root of the chord. If you look into the harmonic overtone series, and that will probably explain that to you. It's got to do with the series and with a little bit to do with acoustical physics, but how that translates to the guitar is we just remove the 5th. And when we remove the 5th, we still have a very full sounding 7th chord, right? That's a 7th chord with no 5th. And it sounds fine. Okay, so let's move to the fretboard, and here's an example of the string sets 1 and string sets 2. That's as far as we're going to take this today, is just those 2 string sets. You can take this to all 4 string sets. If you feel keen about learning your triads, I would suggest this book, published under My Guitar Pal, Guitar Triads, Building a Functional Understanding of Chord Construction. I wrote this one. You can pick it up on Amazon. All right, so G7 chord root is the G, G, B, and F. There's a G7 chord, right? You can probably see that as a part of that big shape D, G7. There it is, G7, and then we move up the fretboard. So what we've done is we've taken the G, which was on the bottom, and in order to invert the chord, we put the G on the top. And now we take the B, put it on top, and we have the root is now in the middle. Root is on the top, root is on the bottom. And then we have a root in the middle, and now we're going to go back to root on the bottom. Okay, so those are inversions of the 7th chord with the eliminated D. All right, and we'll get a little deeper shortly. Now let's move to string set 2. Remember that this chord is coming from from the C major scale. It's the 5th degree. It's built on the 5th degree of the C major scale, in the case of the G7 chord, okay? Now, that's why it's called the dominant 7, because it's built on the dominant degree of the scale, being the G. All right, now the next is we start with the F on the bottom. That's a nice sounding voicing. So F, G in the middle, B on top. And then G to the bottom, F on top. And then to the G on the bottom, F in the middle. You can probably see it as part of this chord. And then the repeat of the first one we played. Moving down, moving down, and down. Okay, so those are inversions of the G7 chord with no D on string sets 1 and string sets 2. Now, it's not shown here, but there is the possibility of playing this same chord with a D instead of the G. And if you do that, I'm just going to jump in. If you do that, the root is implied, and or else played by the bass player, right? And let's just dig in a little deeper. Let's go back to that string set 1, and then here's the. And now here is a voicing without the root. And we put the 5th back in again. And then back. And then a voicing with the 5th and no root. And then finally up here. So this tends to give a very complete picture. So what I'm getting at is a dominant 7th chord is a 4-note chord. You can play it without the 5th, or you can play it without the root. The most important part of a dominant 7th chord is in the tritone. The notes in the case of G, the notes of B and F. You can't really. Those are all just inversions of the tritone. You can't really have a dominant 7th chord sound without that tritone, but you can flip between the root and the 5th. You know, the root and the 5th and the tritone. You've got a G7 or you've got a 7th chord. All right, and the same thing is going to apply here. And here we have a G7 voicing without the root. We return to the root. And then we did this one before without the root. Right. And then we return. Good. So that gives you a really nice, comprehensive approach to getting your dominant 7ths cased, with string sets in mind. What this attempts to do, this kind of study, is well, first of all, to give you a method of practice for your chords that goes beyond visual representations, right? So you see a picture, you take the picture, and you put it on your fretboard, and you don't know anything about the picture. You've just got a picture. I've done a lot of teaching, and I literally, man, I've had students that have played 20 years, and they don't know, all they understand is when they put their fingers down in a certain picture, they get a certain chord. But that's not going to get you to a place where you're improvising and writing and understanding what you're doing, and that's what we want to do here. All right, and so now what you want to do is take that 5 chord and resolve it to your 1. 5, 1, just to the closest one, and then, right? This is I like this. This is fun. To the closest one. Here's the 5th one. Or here. Or here. You can hear that, right? That's called a perfect cadence, and they're everywhere. And that's what you want to do, right? And you want to link up the whole fretboard in that way. When you're practicing your triads, you can on one string set and another string set move from between string sets as well, like right. Let's say we go here and then change string sets and then change. Right? Right. Needless to say that chords, triads, are, well, maybe it's not needless to say. I should say that that triads are really the link to playing intelligent single note lines over chord progressions. And I don't care if the chord progression is a 3-chord country tune or a jazz tune. As a matter of fact, from my own experience, some of the most difficult and challenging solos I've played have been three chord solos, because country solos, because they're there's no fooling around. You have to hit the right notes. That's all there is to it. In jazz, there's so many notes going on that sometimes you can sort of make it get away with a little more than you can when you're just playing triads. So triads sort of link up the fretboard, and it's like thinking of it like a piano, much more so. And so you should start to build a program of triadic practice and triadic study that you fit into your repertoire of practice. You're probably practicing your scales. You should be practicing your repertoire. You should be practicing your rhythm chords. You should be practicing and you should be practicing your triads, and you should be practicing your arpeggios. But unfortunately, triads are the most, I would say, oh man, I think they may be the most important of all, and they're the most neglected among guitar players, and that's not good. So if you want to completely renovate your playing and understanding of the instrument, learn your triads. Okay, so that's it for today. 5-1 in the key of C major. Learn to see the scale underneath your underneath what you're playing, because the chords come out of the scale, right? And so learn your degree numbers, learn your resolutions. The resolution of a 5-1 is called a perfect cadence, and that's a perfect place to end. Please like or subscribe. Would really appreciate that. And comments are fantastic, because it lets me know if I should be out looking for a job, or if you want to hear more. Thanks for dropping by, and hope to see you again really soon.